My name is Marcus Holloway. I'm 54 years old. For 2 decades, I was a special operations officer, serving in units that, to the public, never existed. And for good reason. Today, I'm retired, and I want to share a personal account. What I'm about to tell you isn't scientific proof. It's my memory, etched into my skin and my mind. If it sounds impossible, I understand. It sounded that way to me back then. It's still does. But I need to speak. I am a tall man, 6'2", and my body is marked by years in the field. There's a cut on my left eyebrow that never quite healed right, a thin scar on my right forearm, and the baldness I started accepting in my 40s. On the day everything changed, I was 37. I always wore simple field clothing, a slate gray tactical jacket, a black cotton shirt, olive cargo pants. My gear was designed not to draw attention, useful pockets. Silent fabric, rubber-soled shoes with no shine. No insignia, no rank. The agency, let's just call it the directorate, assigned me to a project at a scientific facility in Maine. The pretext was simple: escort a field team investigating some local atmospheric phenomena. But what nobody told me outright was that something in the area didn't fit any meteorological explanation. The first time I saw them was on an autumn night. A wet snow was covering the road. The encounter happened in a valley between pine-covered hills, where a lake opened up like a dark mirror. I was in an unmarked vehicle with Agent Lydia Parker Brunette, 34 years old. Her hair tied in a low ponytail. Her brown eyes would frown whenever I said something smelled unnatural. Lydia wore a dark brown jacket and a red scarf. A small bit of color that I later found helped me spot her when the fog and electronic haze rolled in. They didn't arrive flying, not like in the movies. There were no blinding lights tearing through the night. Instead, the first impression was of a shadow with presence, a quiet coherence that displaced the air around it. An entity emerged from the lake, hovering just a few inches above the water, its form bending the light. We instinctively measured the distance. 30 meters, 20, 10. When Lydia and I turned off the engines and stayed perfectly still, the shadow became something my language still struggles to name. The first ones to appear had a form you could call humanoid, but that's just on the surface. They stood between 6 and 7 feet tall, their skeletal outlines visible beneath a translucent organic tissue. Their skin looked like frosted glass, not reflective, but deep, as if it were frozen fog. Instead of eyes, they had glowing horizontal slits that changed color as they communicated: deep blue for focus, amber for emotion, pale green for curiosity. They didn't wear clothes like we do. Their bodies were covered by organic structures that acted as both armor and an interface, fused to their skin by vein-like patterns. These patterns pulsed softly, synchronized with what I later understood to be a form of respiration, though they didn't breathe air like us. They called themselves, according to a rough translation from the Directorate's linguista, the first one to touch my shoulder. Yes, they touched me. Physical contact without harm. Was a Thalar named Isha. Isha's lights lit, glowed amber. When he was calm, the light would nearly vanish. His hand was long and thin, with 4 fingers and an opposable thumb, its tips covered by sensory membranes. They looked like the skin of a fish, but more intricate, capable of reading temperature and even emotional states through touch. When Lydia and I were escorted to a secure perimeter, the Directorate informed me there would be a controlled contact. I was chosen for my field experience and my ability to remain silent under pressure. But nothing can prepare a human for what it means to hear or rather to feel the voice of something that has never used words. The Thalar communicated through vibrations and chromatic emissions that I felt more than I heard. It was like a wave passing through my chest, bringing with it images of vast luminous fields, pearl-like structures grown in warm water, and sound that felt like texture. Lydia covered her mouth in shock. I felt tears streaming down my face without even realizing I was crying. Their message wasn't just information, it was experience, compressed. After weeks of dialogue, with linguists and cognitive scientists wrapped in layers of secrecy, we achieved something close to a conversation. The Directorate negotiated carefully, and what they asked of me, what I accepted, was impossible. a short-term journey to the Thal, our homeworld. It was part of a cultural exchange that, for them, held scientific value. For us, it was a chance to understand. You might already find this absurd, but remember it'd seen technology that wasn't ours. Organisms that refused to be called biological in our sense of the word, and there was mutual trust. I had saved a Thalar that first night, when his sensory membrane got trapped in the ice. Isher had looked at me with an intensity I later interpreted as recognition. That's how permission was granted. Preparation for transport was both technical and ritualistic. There was no metal cabin, no seats. The human-built facility served as a staging room, where the Thal air formed a circle of white crystals not any mineral known to us that vibrated at a frequency Lydia described as almost music. I wore a thermal black jumpsuit with layers of insulation and adhesive sensors, a lightweight ceramic vest, and traction boots. My appearance was documented in detail. Short hair, stubble, and a yellow ribbon tied around my wrist for temporal identification, a bureaucratic symbol so human it made me laugh nervously. When the transport began, the human world dissolved like watercolor in water. The scientific explanation I got later was that the device creates a localized temporal fold, recalibrates the electromagnetic field, and shifts molecules through what they call phase rings. To me, it just felt like falling without moving, as if my body was being read and rewritten in another tone. There was a cold, flash-note light, but in absence of it, then, a sky of impossible color. Their planet was cold, distant, with a gravity slightly lower than ours. The landscape was a study in smooth curves and filtered light. The air had a sweet, mineral scent, and breathing felt easy, as if the oxygen was tempered by something benevolent. The sky wasn't blue. It shimmered with an opalescent hue that shifted with the local sun's angle. Their cities looked like seashells turned toward the ocean, their living surfaces covered in a biomimetic texture. Everything in Ashara seemed grown rather than built flowing architecture. Bending roads that seemed to bow to pass. The inhabitants of Ashara weren't numerous like our urban Masset. Communities were woven like networks, with every individual performing flexible roles. The idea of property translated poorly. Instead of money, they had something like a resonance. Exchange sharing a melody, a memory, or a sensory flavor had value. Isha explained that the Thalar were fascinated by our violence, but also by our resilience. We, in turn, were captivated by how they resolved conflict. Through attunement concessions, processes where individuals traded fragments of sensory memory to reach deep empathy. Their culture placed great importance on origin stories, but unlike our linear storytelling, theirs were literally woven. I saw artisans singing patterns into living fibers, which grew into walls like tapestries that changed color as you passed. They had healing rituals that involved shared dreams. The elder who welcomed us, a figure named Alith, offered me a fragment of Isia's childhood, a field of light, a brother lost in a storm of energy. When I lived that memory, I felt Ashur's remorse and affection as if they were my own. It was the first time I understood the redemptive and dangerous power of contact beyond words. But not everything in Ashara was a utopia. They remembered ecological cataclysms, times when their society lost balance by overusing matter that altered the planet's resonance. It made them wary of technologies that could rewrite the environment, a caution that, when translated to our human politics, sounded like a wisdom we rarely practice. Their technology seemed organic. Vehicles powered by wind currents harvested through leaf-like structures, medical devices that rebuilt tissue with micro-vibrations, libraries that stored knowledge in patterns of color and light. Read be touch. But what struck me most was how they dealt with memory and trauma. Instead of burying pain, they turned it into communal chants rituals, where the entire community would carry fragments of an individual's memory to ease their burden. I spent 5 subjective days on Ashara. On the second day, I was invited to a communal dinner. Tifud Wasan, tifud as we know it. It was translucent pastes that released sensory information when you ate them. When I tasted one, I experienced notes of childhood, rain, and gratitude. It wasn't just nourishment, it was knowledge and flavor. The experience taught me our limits. I asked Alithra about war. She smiled sadly, a gesture that made her light turn yellowish. She explained that yes, they had known war and the horror of resonance theft, individuals who stole experiences from others, stripping them of their identity. It was a parasitism of experience, a theft of the soul. Their history carried ruptures, reconciliations, and laws forbidding memory trade without consent. At the end of my stay, I was taken to a hall of living stone. Ishur approached and touched my chest with his sensory membranes. Again, a surge of images flooded my mind. My childhood, my mother singing, the smell of gasoline when I brought home my first car, the fear in my first tactical training. Ishur didn't just seek. He should. He offered something that translates roughly as respect, a recognition that my risk in crossing worlds was genuine. We returned to Earth with minimal agreements, a scientific exchange in non-risk areas, their promise not to interfere directly in our systems, and our promise to treat them with secrecy and respect. The Directorate filed the incident as an atypical, atmospheric anomaly, bearing photos and recordings under layers of encryption. Lydia received internal honors. I got a medal I never wore publicly. The return didn't leave me untouched. My military career continued until retirement, but something in me had changed. The awareness that we are so small on the scale of possible experiences. Some nights, I still feel the opalescent sky of Ishur. Sometimes I dream of Ishur's touch and the taste of gratitude in that alien meal. If there's a purpose in telling this, it's to remind us that contact doesn't have to mean domination. It can mean curating empathy. If a distant civilization could develop an ethics of memory and ecology, why does our rush for technology so often forget moral caution? Maybe the greatest lesson I brought back was a question. How will we react when the unknown asks us to be responsible? If you ask for proof, I'll give what I can. My partially declassified notes, sketches, partial translations of sensory, and a Lorezelusian photograph showing Ishur beside Lydia, both wrapped in a misty light. It's not irrefutable evidence, but it's a sign. For many, it's not enough. For me, it's enough to remember. My name is Elliot Halley. This is my testimony. If you believed it, good. If you doubted it, perhaps skepticism is what protects us. Either way, remember, the world is vast, and the questions we ask today will shape how we're able to listen tomorrow. Thanks for hearing my story. If it resonated with you, consider subscribing for more personal accounts. Your support means more than you know. Stay safe out there.